Hey, all right, I haven't really been on too much lately. We've got a lot of stuff going on with the plugins and life in general. Should be getting a Tone X1 dropped off today. Maybe we'll put that on the stream and actually test this thing out. There was a lot of, I don't know, you've probably seen there's tons and tons and tons of complaints about how IK Multimedia is handling this thing, and software maybe is not so great, but I'm going to at least try and get some reference levels that I can share with people. So maybe we'll do that later. Right now, I'm looking at more Tonewood debate stuff. Everybody seems to be talking about this Chicago Music Exchange, I think was the name of the shop that hosted Paul Reed Smith. Paul Reed Smith is notorious, whether you believe in Tonewoods or not. I mean, Paul Reed Smith is kind of a Tonewood crank, right? His evidence has been pretty bad. And the argument is usually, oh yeah. I don't know. Am I going to get in trouble for saying that? But I think I got my ESP from Chicago Music Exchange. That might be, I mean, it was an awesome experience, and there was like nothing for sale at the time. So let's see.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
I haven't watched this one, this Ministry of Guitar, Why Guitarists Are Fooled by Tonewood. There's this thing called Play and Trade Guitars. It was mentioned on Glenn's show today, where he was talking about this too. I mean, everybody's been talking about this. I meant to do this last week, but I don't know. This guy's showing two totally different guitars and saying that they should sound the same. I don't know. Kind of a straw man. I watched one from Highline Guitars, and I don't know if I watched this whole thing, but I didn't like. There's so many things that we automatically assign. Tube amps are better than anything else. You want to sound like a tube amp. How did that become the standard, right? I mean, if you have a sound you like, that's the sound you like. I don't care how you get there. We always talk about how vintage EQs are better than modern EQs. Better in what way? It's just like we have to accept it on faith that something older must be better. And that's just silly. I mean, if you want to just keep using your old stuff, go for it. But I think you're using a new cell phone. You're not using you're not doing the old phone company thing, climbing up the phone tower and tapping into the phone lines or whatever, right? You're using a cell phone. Argument from antiquities, silly thing. So Highline Guitars did something on this, and I don't really, we'll see if we get to that. Let's just check out the actual video everybody's been telling. 43 minutes, I don't think so. Oh boy, let me speed this up. Let's see. It says Paul Reed Smith himself sets the record straight on industry myths and player misconceptions. When has Paul Reed Smith ever set anybody straight on anything? Yeah, that's a bold claim right there. Let's see if there's. I just want to see the Tonewood stuff. Trust your experience. Huh. Some vintage guitars are magical. Trust the experts. Guitar battle. Okay, so it looks like maybe on the Q&A, we may not have to do that much watching. So let's just take a look.
Can we take Visa and MasterCard and American Express?
One of my favorite people in this industry. What he's accomplished, instruments, more of that to you. Our team is here literally just help everybody have a good time. Hopefully there's time to plug these things in, get everything autographed. But here's Paul.
That's really messed up. Let's have a disagreement and an argument with the internet. How does that sound? All right, so who doesn't play guitar in here? You don't play guitar? You don't play guitar? You don't play guitar. Are you aware that there's a whole pile of people on the internet that think they know how to make guitars way better than us? I got it. Can you believe
by us? All right, you guys know what a huge fan I am of world musical instruments. I am. Isn't that who made his guitars?
That might be true.
I don't know.
What? That's kind of what I think. How dare they? That's kind of what I think. So I figured we would open the floor up to all the ideas that the internet blogs or the people in their underwear in the basement are telling us. And as my friend says, Paul, they're not wearing any underwear. So does anybody want to take a risk and go for the grand white cookie elephant in the room?
You guys like this poisoning of the well here?
Oh, shit. What he said was Tonewood. So let me explain to you, and to you, and to you, what this argument is. You ready? They think for an instrument maker, the woods that you make it out of make absolutely no difference.
No. All right, so first off the bat, that's a straw man. If you made a guitar out of silly putty wood and you went to tighten a string and it just bowed the whole neck and whole guitar, yeah, that matters. The argument is that to an electric guitar pickup, all right, here's the minimal, this is a minimal facts argument. To an electric guitar pickup, the species of wood doesn't make any difference as long as it's, within the parameters of holding the guitar together. Okay. The species of wood is not going to make a difference. Sound wise. I don't even think that it would for an acoustic guitar, but I think we can go, pretty much further. There may be some construction details that make a difference. How far is the pickup from the bridge, for instance? Take the same two pickups, put them in the same guitar in two different positions, and it's going to sound different, okay? So construction makes a difference. The species of wood isn't part of that equation right there. And when they say better or whatever, what is the better? Is flatter better? Is upper harmonics better? Like, what does better even mean? So these guys act like, they can knock on a piece of wood. Paul Reed Smith is famous for this wooden xylophone thing. Knock on a piece of wood and say, oh man, that's going to be a great sounding guitar. Great in what way? What are you listening for? Are you listening for like a lot of resonance? Because you know what? Resonance would be very, very, very easy to show through the pickup. That would be something that we could actually see pretty simply. But let me just pull up a Google image here. Second. Okay, so here's a word. Dendrochronology. Okay, it says tree ring dating. You look at any of these pictures here. Let's see how this one is. See, there's like dark and light chunks of the same wood. You'll find, anybody who's ever had to cut something down with a chainsaw knows that when you hit a knot, bad things can happen. Different parts of the same tree can have completely different properties. You can have really dense hardwood. You can have really soft light wood. You could have hard light wood. So even if the wood made a difference, the species of wood isn't going to matter. Anyway. So again, he already started out with the straw man. That is not the argument we're making, but whatever.
What was that sound? Okay, well, it's true. That's what you're bringing it up. Okay. Which means if I make the guitar out of balsa wood, and I put a rubber nut on it and a rubber bridge, and the strings are dead, and they're covered in Vaseline, the only thing that makes any difference is the pickup in your new pedal. Is that correct?
No, that's not the argument. However, I would love to see somebody do this experiment. Now, I know that guitars have been made out of balsa wood. They have been made out of cardboard. There's a cardboard Fender Strat out there. And it sounds the same as anything else. And if you've ever not seen it, Jim Lill has a video on what makes tone or whatever on a guitar. And he doesn't even have a body on his. It's just a bridge and a set of tuners and a nut. Now, if you made the nut out of rubber and it held it hard enough, I bet you might not be able to tell the difference necessarily between that and a bone nut or a brass nut or something else. We could see.
Great. I quit.
But again, that's a second straw man. So he's got two straw man in a row right here.
It's such one-dimensional poor thinking in my...
See, this is all like insults and stuff. Get to the actual evidence. See, here's the thing. If you guys had any evidence for Tonewood at all, it's so trivial easy to show. Here, let me show you a piece of software here called Room EQ Wizard. Okay? I'm pretty sure this is free. I might have actually paid for this, but I think there's a free version. This is measurement software. Put a mic in front of something and measure it, and you'll get level versus frequency versus time. For instance, you can get other types of information out of here, but this will tell you a whole lot about everything. If you've got any evidence at all, if this is a real phenomenon, Room EQ Wizard in front of a microphone is going to show it to you every single time. But these guys can't even agree what good means. So it's just religion.
My opinion. And I want to get it out on the floor before we could go on for an hour and then we would hit it. But you had the courage to bring it up first. Now, let's ask the question. If you were getting a violin made by one of the best makers in Cremona for a violin, would you take his ability away to find the best tone woods for that instrument? No, you wouldn't do it. Just so people know. I mean, okay, this is a bad example because we already know that violins are like a wine tasting. The alleged experts can't tell the difference in the sound of these things, at least. Some of them can't really tell the difference in playing, but I don't know. Playing blindfold is tricky to me. I know there's blind players that can play, but for sure, the top experts, alleged experts, can't tell the difference between the sound of these things. Here we are. Violinists can't tell the difference between Stradivarius and new ones. I don't know. Is this National Geographic? Is this a paywall or something? I'm sure you can find other ones. Smithsonian Institution. Violinists can't tell the... Anyway, there's a bajillion articles out there and actually some published stuff where, these guys can't... Even these violin experts can't tell the difference between the $1 billion violin. Remember, they used to have all these theories. Oh, what made the Stradivarius violin so special? Oh, it was this time in the Lesser Ice Age or something, and the trees were exceptionally dry and they resonated more. No. If you make the thing a certain way, it's going to sound a certain way. I think violin has to do with size, the scale length and stuff like that. I know we did a lot of videos on scale length, and I'm still kind of inconclusive on scale length. But anyway, violin is a bad example because even the alleged experts can't tell the difference in the way they sound. Would you put Strat saddles on a 1935 D28? Why wouldn't you put Strat saddles on a D28?
Would they fit? If they wouldn't fit, then that's why I wouldn't put them on there.
Sacrilegious. Get over it. I said sacrilegious. The reason you wouldn't put Strat saddles on your D28 is because it would sound worse, right?
Why?
But you'll put it on your favorite Strat? Not a good idea. We all know that a bone saddle on an acoustic guitar sounds better than if you put a metal saddle on, right? Okay,
he just made a claim. Bone saddle sounds better than a metal saddle. Do you have any evidence for that? Because this is the kind of claims when you make these claims, you have got to present the evidence for it. These are kind of begging the question here. No, we don't know that. This is not an argument. Here's the thing. Like every time you ask true believers any kind of religious argument, ask them for evidence. Instead, they're going to just cite all these nonsense. Maybe they got some anecdotes, or most likely they're just going to attack you. They're not going to present any evidence. Meanwhile, we can present evidence, Like Jim Lill's video on Tonewood was just the absolute nails in the coffin for any of this. So I don't even know why these guys are still talking.
We just know that. But Tonewoods don't make any difference.
Well, where's your evidence? So
Right.
halfway through here,
It's
still no evidence.
fundamentally- That just doesn't sound right to me. Let me explain. If the string
So now he's like argument from personal incredulity. Let's go.
on a set of strings, you have 6 high strings. You have 6 strings. 3 are unwound and 3 are wound. And we all know that an old set of wound strings goes dead. But that doesn't, in their minds, that makes no difference in the sound of the guitar because a dead string.
No, that's not true at all. I have no problem believing that old strings can sound different than new strings, or like bent up old dirty strings. Seems to be the dirt that matters. It's when the dirt gets in between those coils that it really makes a big difference. I've heard like the rustiest dead strings sound just fine when you wipe them down with alcohol. So I don't know.
String would make no difference if the only thing was important was the pickup and the pedal, right? It just doesn't make any sense.
I don't know where he's getting pedal from, but yes, the pedal's going to change the tone. Obviously, pedals can change the tone. You can make a pedal that distorts your stuff. You can make an EQ pedal. Get out of here with the pedal nonsense. Let's just talk about the pickup.
And this goes on and on and on and on about how it doesn't make any difference. Now, it is true that the reason Leo Fender used alder wood on some of these old Strats and these old Tellys is because it was 30 cents a board foot and it was the cheapest wood he could buy. That is true. It is also true that swamp ash, the pieces that grow under the water, weigh half as much as the pieces that grow out of the water. So you'll get a board, half of it grew out of the water, it weighs like a brick, and the half that was underneath the water drained out of it is very lightweight. And so you would literally cut the tree in half and throw half of it away and make the other one into a good guitar. And that was not a really good idea for him. That I can agree with. But I just have
Yet those Strats sound exactly the same as the ones made out of whatever.
no real
Maple.
fundamental understanding that you take all the gems that Tonewoods can bring to guitar making and
Like what? Like what? Present your evidence.
throw it away because it means nothing. It doesn't make any difference. It just doesn't make any sense to me. This is my guitar. You don't play guitar, right? I'm going to pluck the string, and I want you to just touch the end of the guitar and tell everybody what you experience, okay? Now, I'm not going to hurt you. Don't worry about it.
Vibrating.
How much?
Good amount.
Good amount. Now, if
Okay,
this
now go
was
grab
so
another
large,
guitar.
would you think it would do as much?
No.
Really? She's thinking.
Okay, go grab another guitar.
If I'm doing a clinic with 3 or 4 acoustic guitars, the person who never played guitar is a much better judge of how it sounds than everybody who plays guitar. Because everybody who plays guitar is thinking from their calcified, god-awful, rose-colored glasses, and the person who never played is actually listening. Listen, what I'm begging is that
All right, this is garbage. Could watch some of the reactions on here. I kind of wanted to. I took some issue with the Highline guitars thing, but I don't know if it matters. There was something else that the Dollhouse was watching, and I'm having trouble. I'm not really super sure about this. It's called The Plugin Scam Exposed. Did you fall for it? And this guy's going to say that, you can do null tests and things if you're, if you're using the same algorithms and stuff. EQs are pretty much going to sound the same. You might already have plugins that that will do exactly what the expensive ones will do, at least sound wise. But sometimes you buy different EQs for different features. And look, I love myth busting, obviously, and this guy is ostensibly doing it. I seen maybe there's a claim that really this is just to sell some audio courses, but in general, it's true. If there is something different, you can easily show it using signal analysis software like Room EQ Wizard or some of these Voxengo Span, real-time analyzers and stuff. And so, maybe you shouldn't spend a bunch of money for stuff you already have. And a lot of it, like we were just talking about, people saying, oh, this EQ is so much better than that EQ just because it's old. You're emulating this old EQ. what makes that the best EQ? Maybe you want a more surgical EQ. I remember working on the SSL, you got so much more EQ control back in the day than working on the old Neves. And then nowadays with plug-in EQs, you got so much control. What do you mean by better? You know, just because it makes some phasey mess, that made it better back in the day. So anyway, let's watch a little bit of this.
Been told by the audio industry, and I'm going to expose that right now in this video. So it's this whole idea that different plugins have different flavors.
Now, I know this does feel kind of infomercially.
And you need to buy a whole bunch of different EQ plugins to get the different flavors, because some sounds might sound better with that EQ and some sounds might sound better with this.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's like, oh, for this particular type of guitar, I need this microphone, or I need this mic preamp. Like, look, microphones do different things, so I'm not going to really harp too much. Mic preamps, not so much. If your mic preamp works, it makes your mic louder. And I know that is a huge religious topic, but I don't know how many times we got to bust that myth. And yes, you can make microphone preamps do weird, strange things, but in general, a good mic preamp is a good mic preamp, and any of the good ones are going to sound the same. Even the cheap ones that come on your audio interfaces are going to sound the same, given the same input source. And I know there's some caveats to that, but you know what I mean. And so this idea that, oh, for this thing, you need to use this EQ. And hey, it's true. Back in the day when you're pretty limited, we had a chain like we'd use on Stevie Nicks. We'd have a Neve Kelso mic preamp going into an LA2A and then going into a Pultec, old Pultec EQ. And that was just like this magical voice thing. And it worked. But, you know, if I would have had the control of modern plugins, I could have done that a whole lot easier. You know, because the Pultec is pretty fixed. You know, you might miss, you know, if you know what I mean by where your frequencies are. But anyway, you know, we got to agree on what good is, what's not good. And it's so subjective, but we can, if there is a difference, you can show it. You can use, like I say, Room EQ Wizard, whatever, Voxengo Span. Blue Cat has some audio real-time analyzer plugins.
Other EQ, and you need to experiment to find that difference. Now, I'm sorry to burst the bubble here, but this is just how the audio industry squeeze more money out of you after you already have the tools you need. Go on, buy another EQ. Why? I've already got one. You've only got one? How embarrassing. You need to buy a bunch of different EQs to get different flavors. Really? Yeah, I can't believe you've only been using one single EQ this whole time. Now, I've got a super analog sounding EQ for you, totally different from the cold, harsh digital EQ that you...
Oh, okay, look, you guys know I'm going to have an extreme Reaper bias, right? He keeps showing re-EQ on here, I think. Yes, that's... Is that re-EQ? Yeah, that's re-EQ. Reaper was made when let me just say me, I don't know about didn't know about certain things. And especially even when we did know, weren't sure how to implement this stuff. The first of all, Reaper's EQ is not decramped. All right. So if you get near, actually, let's play along with this. I have a new plugin we got to test out. Maybe we'll test it out on the air. Not new plugin. We've had it for a little while, but I have to do some testing on a new version of it. But let me go to re-EQ. Watch what happens. I'm going to make this big. Yeah, I'm going to take a peak bell band. Now watch what happens when I get near the ends. You see how it loses its symmetry? But this is a proper EQ implementation. It's just not the only one. But you see, this is what's called cramping. As I move over, you see that it loses its symmetry. Okay. Here is one of our EQs. Some dynamic EQ. Watch what happens when I get near Nyquist. See that? No cramping. Okay, now cramping isn't wrong, but in this video, if he's not careful and he compares a cramping EQ to a non-cramping EQ, you could have some issues. But let's just see. I haven't really watched this
you've
thing.
been using. It sounds completely different and completely transform your mixes. In reality, this is almost entirely just bullshit. In almost all of the cases which actually matter, just having one single full-featured high-quality EQ is going to give you all of the flavors and tones that you need. The hard truth is that most people just don't know how to use the gear which they already have available to them, and they think that different plugins sound radically different because of two main reasons. The first major factor are those pretty interfaces which plugin developers go to great lengths to make look like old analog gear, and that really fools people into thinking it sounds like old analog gear.
Well, even if it does, who cares? What does that mean? Do you want old analog gear? I mean, like I say, when the SSL EQ came out, when George Massenburg's EQ came out, you know, that was so much better to me than playing these old EQs. I know people like this nostalgia stuff, but man, I like the control.
Yeah, because what we perceive with our eyes influences what we hear with our ears. This is a known scientific fact. Without even listening to the plugin, just looking at it, if it looks like a Neve EQ out of an old console, you'll think, wow, that must sound warm and old and vintage and analog. And if it looks all...
Man, this guy sounds like me, but with some sort of accent. I don't know if it's an English accent or whatever, but you know, we've showed these videos 8 bajillion times. Right, I'm always showing.
In the illusion, what we
Now to the left of the screen.
Jerk effect, right? Your eyes will fool your ears every single time.
Futuristic, you might think that sounds precise and modern. And if it's got no interface at all, you might think, oh, that just sounds cheap and crappy. They could all be the same EQ.
Scott Stillwell's JS.
And if it's got
EQ,
no
hold on.
interface at all, you
Right there. RBJ 1073 EQ Scott Stillwell, you know?
might think, oh, that just sounds cheap and crappy. They could all be the same EQ, but you think that they sound differently based upon their pretty interfaces or lack thereof. And this isn't just some theory which I'm chucking out there. This is a very well-established scientific fact, and plugin developers know this very well. Look for a video on the McGurk effect, for example. There's a whole bunch of audio-visual illusions out there on YouTube. You can go and search them if you're interested. The second reason is because Q implementation. So you know that knob on an EQ called Q, or bandwidth? That is implemented differently across different EQ plugins from different manufacturers. So on one plugin, you might set it to 1, but that might correspond on another plugin to a setting even of 2. It could be radically different between plugins. So if you don't know how to use the EQ correctly, you're not familiar with it, then you could be fooled by the fact that there's differences in the Q. You might be thinking, that's a bit of a controversial claim, and I'm not going to believe that before I see some evidence. Well, I've got some evidence for you. I've got inarguable, objective scientific fact, because we're just going to get two signals, flip the polarity of one of them.
Like we always do on this channel, right? We're always doing null testing to figure this out. I guess I should say, though, there are differences. Sometimes it's not about the sound of the EQ. It's about the quality of life or some of the other features that this thing might have. FabFilter's EQ, for instance, has a lot of different filter styles on it. I think there's like different types of shelves, and you could probably recreate all this with Re-EQ, but it wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be just as easy as picking a switch. With Re-EQ, you would have to like add extra filters. Let's see, we would do to make like different shelf shapes. You change the type to like high shelf. Then maybe you'd have to add another one to it. High shelf. It's deeper that way. Yeah, I'm not really sure if you even could do it. So there's some differences. Some EQs, I think that also has some dynamic components to it. And, you know, even for ours, right? We have, you know, for Reaper, for its high pass filter, if you really wanted a steep one, you would have to add multiple of them. But it's fine because you can add, I think, infinite bands to Re-EQ. But in our dynamic EQ, for instance, we have a high pass filter with selectable slopes, right? So if you here, if I change slopes, right? So that's the 2-pole, 4-pole, whatever filters. That's a feature. One of the features on our EQ is that this is a dynamic EQ. So dynamic EQ. So you can turn on a compressor here and or a gate or an expander. So EQs can do different things. I think some people make the claim that having EQs where the settings are very limited, like the Pultec or the Neves and stuff, will force you into working a certain quicker way. I kind of agree, but I'm willing to slow down and take the time to do what I wanted it to do. So let's watch the rest of this.
Of them, and we're going to listen to the delta. The delta is the difference between two signals. And if there's no delta, if we don't hear anything, we don't hear any difference between the two signals, then there is no difference. So we can take FabFilter Pro Q as our benchmark. Everyone agrees this is a great sounding EQ, and we can compare it to our built-in Reaper plugin, which looks crappy, and you think that there would be a difference in sound, but no, there's not. We can hear from the delta that they're essentially identical once we've matched the Qs. And we can boost it a huge amount and still see that the difference between the two is essentially inaudible. Now we can compare the difference between...
This is what we do on this channel all the time, right? The null test. I never use the term delta. I guess I maybe I should start doing that, but the delta is the difference between the two signals after you've done the null test.
Nova and FabFilter, and we can also see that they're essentially the same. And to make a point, we can take this comically crappy looking built-in operating system Mac EQ, and we can see that when we properly match it, it's essentially identical as well. And then we can take this analog modeling Neve looking EQ and compare that too, and as we can see, the differences are inaudible again. They all sound basically exactly the same.
Yeah, and you know, even if something does show up through the null signal, if it's 90 decibels down there, I mean, you know, we talk about, Ethan has some things to say about the stacking effect, and maybe this isn't quite exactly the same thing, but if it's 90 decibels down there, I don't care. Maybe if you have 1,000 tracks of it, sure, but you know.
So as you could see, the frequency and the gain controls were all perfectly calibrated, because to be honest, anything else would just be a design failure. But the Qs, the width of the bell, was very different between the EQs. But when we matched them, we almost heard nothing in the delta signal. You can't argue with the delta because it's objective scientific fact. Mathematically speaking, if we don't hear anything once we've polarity flipped it and played the two signals together, if we don't hear any difference, there is no difference. That is the cold scientific hard fact. So my advice is, if you don't already have a good quality full featured EQ with dynamic functionality built in, head over to the Tokyo Dawn website and grab the plugin called Nova. It's completely free, and I don't know why it's free because it's so great, but you can pay more and get the Gentleman edition, but you don't even really need that. The free version is just so great, I don't know why it's free. Alternatively, there's other plugins like FabFilter Pro Q3, which is also a great EQ plugin. However, the dynamics functionality is about as useful as a chocolate teapot because it doesn't have any time constants. So what I'm saying is you absolutely need one.
Okay. You just said something that I didn't realize to this video, so sorry. I'm trying to answer parent questions and stuff. People ask, why did you make dynamic EQ rather than, you know, because people already have FabFilter Pro Q3 or whatever it is. And I think I remember that it didn't have like attack and release time and hold and all that stuff. Whereas, so I wanted to make an EQ where for our dynamics, we had all the features, you know, the time constants. I think that's what he said. I don't know if this is actually true, but
as user Pro Q3, which is also a great EQ plugin. However, the dynamics functionality is about as useful as a chocolate teapot because it doesn't have any time constants. So what I'm saying is you absolutely need one high quality EQ. You don't need a whole bunch of different ones because that sounds...
Okay, so let me send this to you know, a new marketing person. I like that what exactly
this video
said. Give me 2 seconds. I have to send this off real fast. I'm sorry. So I'll be right back to this. Okay, how do I submit this? Okay, that should be there. Okay, sorry about that. Let me show you actually. So here's dynamic EQ. And if we turn on our compression, we got a threshold, attack, a release, ratio, RMS windowing time. You can go to peak if you want. We also have a hold control here. May or may not be important to you. And then for you could actually sidechain what's going to tell the detector what to do from any band from outside. Let's say you wanted your kick drum to turn down the bass, your famous example, right? Or you could just do the band, or you could do the band would be whatever band of EQ you have selected, or you could choose the input, which is the full bandwidth signal, and you can use a high pass and low pass in order to fine tune that. I want to put this in my dynamic EQ thing real quick. Sorry that I'm actually. It's called tasks. Selling points. Okay. I want to go to dynamic EQ. Okay. Sorry. Okay, let me get back to there. So anyway, we have the time constants in ours. That's why you might want a different EQ for certain things, but
sounds better on guitars and that sounds better on kick drums. No, if you know how to use an EQ properly, they all sound the same. But now the astute viewers might be thinking, well, that's just bells. What about shelves? Maybe shelves sound radically different between different EQs. And yes, there is some truth to this, especially the analog modeling plugins, for example, from Waves. They do some weird stuff with the shelves. But even so, we can just recreate that in FabFilter. Listen to the delta. There's almost no difference between the two. But you might say, but it's a different shape. So it's a different flavor. Well, not really. It's just a weird EQ setting which doesn't sound as good as a normal shelf. It's not analog. It's the exact same
man, look at that. That is a lot of points.
sounding digital.
I think that's what Dollhouse was saying. It's like, look, maybe you can match it, but man, I don't want to go through all that just to get that. But who's to say that the other thing's better? But
processing, it's just a weird shape. And if you just for some reason just love this bad sounding shelf shape and you want to use that all of the time and you don't want to sit there with 100 EQ points and get it to know exactly,
okay.
Well, obviously you're not going to do that, but you could just do something way simpler like this and you probably can't even tell the difference anyway.
Why is he peaking Reaper all the way up the whole time? Come on, man. Take the volume down just the tiniest bit.
Now, there is actually one true alternative flavor of EQ, and it's called linear phase EQ. This is most useful pretty much only in the high frequencies, but plugins like FabFilter have got this built right in. You can just go down to the bottom of FabFilter and switch from minimum phase to linear phase, and they've even got another mode called natural phase, and you can just switch that. And if your one plugin does everything that you need, then you don't need 10 different plugins, which you think sound different because they have different pretty interfaces. So hopefully now you're convinced, if you use one high quality EQ properly...
I think I actually asked about... Hold on, sorry. Let me check. I got some people in. Give me 2 seconds. I'm just fixing everything that everybody broke over the last couple of days. Yeah. All right. We just had visitors, but okay, sorry. We get back to this.
You don't need to buy multiple different EQs to get different flavors. This is just a scam from the audio industry, the plugin developers, trying to get you to buy more plugins from them, and that's fine.
I mean, this is pervasive thinking across all of audio. It's not just EQs, man. This is mic pre's, and we just watched the thing on Tonewoods, right? You know, if you got evidence, show the evidence. He just did. He just did some null tests.
Money, they have to come up with some reason for you to buy them, but don't be fooled into thinking that they actually sound different. They don't. Now, in the audiophile and pro audio world, often people don't like talking about delta. Why? Because it's revealing the bullshit behind the magic curtain. People say things like, it doesn't matter that the delta is so low that it's practically inaudible. I can still feel the difference. There is a feeling there which is coming across better in this other one. If people want to say that science is invalidated by their feelings, that's fine. They can argue about that. People argue about all sorts of things on the internet these days. But I just prefer scientific fact myself. But the absolute most important critical thing in using an EQ is being able to use an EQ properly. And so I've got your back on that one. I've got a bunch of courses on my website. Check out the link below.
Here is where maybe the Dollhouse was talking about, you know, it's kind of infomercially. Because he is selling an audio education course. I don't know if that's bad. I don't really have an opinion, but I do appreciate most of what he said about these EQs. I just want to say that there is, you know, there might be reasons to want a different one, like you just showed, where you needed 1,000,000 points on the one. Or, you know, if we're talking about dynamics, I got to check, because I thought FabFilter maybe did have time constants on theirs, but I can't remember. Do I even have it? I bought some FabFilter stuff. Let me see. Let's see. Pro Q. Oh, I do have Pro Q. Okay, so if I make... Yeah, sorry, this is my only prescription glasses, so it's kind of hard to see. So here's a band, and if I want to make it dynamic, make dynamic. Oh, that's not bad. Okay, so where is the controls for the dynamic? Band 1 dynamic range. Okay, so here's the threshold. It's the range. Exactly sure how that works, but so where's the attack and release? See, I think that's what he's talking about. We got threshold and we got range, which is analogous to ratio, sorta. Yeah, interesting. Okay, let me get back to, let's see,
apmastering.com. And if you found this video interesting, check out one of my other videos. My whole channel is dedicated to audio.
Yeah, I might want to go watch some of these videos. I'm not sure. Okay, so this isn't going to be in the title, but here's a little treat here. So let me turn all these off. And who knows, this might just crash everything. So this is a new build, fresh off the presses just this morning. So this is our iconic reverb. Okay, let me try some computer glasses here, because I'm really going to have to see. Okay, so here's iconic reverb. What we got now is, and man, I still have a hard time using these envelopes. So there's different envelopes here. There's the amplitude, the low pass filter, and the high pass filter. But we just added a new type of EQ called iconic. And that's going to be, you know, we do have an early reflection EQ the ER EQ. The late reflection EQ is his tail EQ. Iconic is going to set the entire tone of everything before the spectrum analyzer. And if you're looking, this is a heat map type of spectrum analyzer. So brighter colors are louder. We're looking at time. Are we looking at frequency over level? Hold on a second. 1 second. Hello, Kylo Music School. Sorry, I am to catch things are a little crazy, right? Okay. All right, so let's see. So we have what you can do now is if you really have a sound of a reverb you want, but you want to modify it a lot, we want to make it so you can match it. So if you can bring in an impulse, for instance, I have, oh no, why doesn't it, actually, I'm gonna add a quality of life thing. I want to make it so that you can have a default impulse folder that this thing looks at. But for now, I think, where can I go here? Drive AIX DSP impulses. So I'm gonna look at this gate reverb, for instance. So if I hit this, oh no, that's not what I did. This is gonna poof, isn't it? Yep, poof. Let me pull this back up. See, this is why these are betas, man. They will poof. All right. Well, this is how you make software, man. You break the eggs and you talk about the omelet with the chef. Okay, here we go again. Make sure the sample is correct. Yep, there we go. All right, so let me show this. So here's, if I hit this compare button, now I can pull up a sample. So this is an impulse. This is a gated reverb impulse I like. If I want to audition what it sounds like, all right, so that's how that sounds. And here's how it looks. Right? So here's that impulse. And you see how this is a gated one. Look at the low end cuts off pretty quick. Now here's the other one. Look at, there's a lot more energy in the low frequencies at the beginning. You see how to make sure I'm reading this exactly right. So here's, why is that showing? Why is this showing instead of, so this is the time. Okay, so let's say I was going to match this. So I got 0.86 is the total length. So I'll get something close to here. And I want to see what I've generated. So let me change this from warm to bright right off the bat. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit closer. You see how this one croaks here? It's kind of a mid spiky kind of thing. We're looking at level over time, and this way we're looking at frequency. Okay, sorry. So the line is the level. Here's the time, and here's the frequency, I think. Sorry. So this is what we want it to look like. So we know that we want the lows to end like right there. So let's do that. Low envelope. Maybe the wrong shape, but let's take a look. It's too dense. Here's just the volume here. Let's get the volumes pretty much a little bit closer together. Too much. See this density here? Is that a function of the ER? Let me put in the just dry. versus the ER. Doesn't seem to be reading it, so I'm not sure if that's how that works. Take the density down. Yeah, this doesn't seem to take a look at the ER. We'll deal with that later. All right, so let's compare this. The bottom is somewhat the same. Up here needs to go down a lot. I'm just looking at timing right now. Kind of want to change the band here. So that's frequency. Let me see where that is. Oh, that's about the right. Okay, so low is right. High maybe needs to go up a little bit. Okay, that I think that should be right. Okay, so let's look at this again. Kind of a soft fade from about here for the mids. And maybe they're quieter too, but nice fade, and then pretty much go away. That too much? That's too much. Okay. So it's going to go all the way to the end. It's just going to be quiet. Maybe. Okay, and then I need a lot more purple up here, right? So let's see if I can't do that. So I go to the iconic EQ. And I think that's going to be, really should be a shelf. Can I do a shelf out of here? No, maybe not. That's got to last longer. Let me get the levels right first. It's a little bit too much lows. But it's kind of hard to match this way. So I'm using the EQ to match what's up and down, really. But it's not too bad. Gotta scatter this a little bit, so maybe I can make this wider. Should be getting my Tonex pedal anytime now, right? All right, so allegedly this should sound similar. Let's listen to the reference. Yeah. Whoa. All right, I've been having a lot of trouble matching things with this reverb for a while. This is definitely not right, but man, it's a lot closer than I expected. Let me turn this up. Wow. No, okay, wait, I'm messing up. Duh. Okay, that was me being dumb. Fire me. Here's the real one. Sorry. Okay, so now you can hear how different that is. Ah, I'm such an idiot. Hearing different. Are they just hearing different mids? Now see that the envelope is still different. So mid's gotta drop quicker. kind of like it's pretty strong till it starts to fade out too. So that's more like it. All right. So yeah, that's how this thing works, but I still am not really able to control it all that well. I gotta go deal with life, but I'll be back later when I